Hey everyone, I'm back with another gameplay video with Domain Zoo. This time I'm going to focus on one of the matchups I've been having a bit of trouble with recently, and that's Hardened Scales. So I'm going to run through two matches with Hardened Scales where I actually think I didn't play particularly well. I didn't win the matches, but I'm just trying to improve this matchup. It's not one that I'm super experienced with playing, and it's one that I've struggled with a bit. So I'm not sure if it's just a tough matchup for Zoo or if it's, I'm misplaying. But hopefully this video can maybe help some people out to identify mistakes they're making, or if for those of you who are experienced playing against Hardened Scales, maybe you can provide me some feedback for how to play this matchup differently. So to start off with the first match, I'm going to just do two matches today. These are both from leagues within the last week. Okay, this hand is fine. I've only got one threat, but with the Triumph, it's a little awkward, but I think this is something I would normally keep. I've got a lot of burn in hand, so it could work out well. So he plays Nurturing Peatland, something he's maybe on Yawgmoth, something like that. Then he plays Urza Saga, so I'm not really sure what he's on, and then he plays Metallic Mimic. So this was kind of a weird version of Scales that I haven't seen before, where he's trying to, everything's built around a construct, and he's just trying to do stuff with that. So my first thought is I don't want him to, I want to slow him down a bit, so I'm going to kill the Metallic Mimic. I don't want him to start pumping creatures, and then I'll just play my threat. Okay, he doesn't do anything here. I just go for Scion, and I'm going to start swinging. Um, Obviously, I could bind the Walker here, but I don't think it's totally necessary at this point, just because I want to wait to see what he grabs with Urza Saga and see if I want to bind something there. So he ends up just making two constructs, and they grabbed a Springleaf Drum. He has a second Saga, so now he's got a really wide board, and he plays an Arcbound Ravager, and then he swings for 5. So at this point, he's already kind of, built up a big board. I still haven't used my binding or my Tribal Flames. So I'm just going to attack with everything and kind of see what he does. What I'm hoping to do is catch him like sacrificing a bunch of artifacts, and then I can bind the Ravager in response or something like that. So that's what I'm kind of waiting and hoping to be able to do. So I've got also a pretty wide board. He plays another Mimic, and then he's going to swing with everything. So I'm going to block, and then I know he's going to try to make another token, try to sacrifice some things to make his Ravager make something really big. So what he's trying to do is put everything on one big construct, and then so I'm just going to bind that construct here. I'm going to take 4, and then I just have double Tribal Flame, so this is pretty easy win actually in this matchup. But as you see, he got a couple Urza Sagas down, so it was hard. He had a pretty good board state, but I managed to top deck the second Tribal Flames, which is what ultimately did it. But I did actually have a pretty good board state as well. So this game, I don't know that I would have done anything that differently. I think I played it pretty well with waiting for Leyline Binding and waiting for the right moment to use it. Okay, for game 2, in terms of sideboarding, I brought in Hidetsugu Consumes All, just because all the artifacts. I took out 2 Stubby Ds because he does have some stuff that I could use Stubby D on, but it's a lot of creatures, and then I bring in 2 Wear Tear. So that's a pretty straightforward, bringing some artifact enchantment. Hey, looking at this hand is fine. I've got a turn 1 threat, turn 2 threat, and I've got a sideboard card. So this hand looks pretty good. So I'm going to keep this. Okay, he goes turn 1, Springleaf Drum. I'm just going to play Nicodle. He goes Saga, Metallic Mimic, Walking Ballista, Hangerback Walker. So now he's already kind of off to the races. He just kills my Nicodle with the Walking Ballista before I can pump it. So I'm going to just play the Brawler here. I could Tribal Flame something, but again, I'm kind of hoping to draw a 3rd land to play Hidetsugu and at least kill a lot of his stuff. So he plays some more creatures. Now he's got a really wide board again. He's got 2 of these Metallic Mimics. So I'm going to go with Hidetsugu. I get the 3rd land, but the issue is, as you can see, the Metallic Mimics are 2 mana, so I didn't really look that closely at that. So this wasn't that effective at doing much of anything because he still can make He still didn't make his constructs yet, but I just felt like I had to clear the board before he could do a lot more damage. And then now, he's just going to make constructs, and then he's going to just make things really big with the Mimic. And then he's just, I can't really do anything here. So for this game, maybe I shouldn't have played. Maybe I should just try to kill the Mimics as early as possible, and then held up, and then waited on Hidetsugu. Like I could have killed one of them with Tribal Flames at least, and maybe it would slow them down enough so that then I can use my Hidetsugu the following turn to wipe the board. I think that may have been a better line. I'm not really sure. Again, the WDs in this matchup are, maybe you just board all of them out. They're not that great. It's not a whole lot I can do. But so that was game 2. Okay, game 3. So looking at this hand, this is this one's a little too awkward. I don't like having the basic land in hand. I do bring in Prismatic Ending. So this was an older iteration from a league where I had Prismatic Ending in the sideboard. So I did take out the 2 stubs and then the 4. Yeah, same sideboarding as last. That's what I was talking about. But I do have I do bring in 2 Hidetsugu, 2 Wear Tear, and then 2 Prismatic Endings. This is just I wanted extra removal to kill some of his creatures or scales or whatever he's got. So I can't keep this hand because the awkward lands. This hand is okay. It's got a threat. It's got some interaction. So I decided to keep this. Plays Beseiju. Okay, so here, obviously, I'm going to just counter the Hardened Scales. That's the only turn 1 play I have, and I just don't want him to get it on the board. I draw another Brawler, which is good. And then I'm just going to play the Brawler. Okay, he plays a Mimic, plays a Walking Ballista. So I'm going to kill the Mimic, learn my lesson from last game, I'm going to swing away. And then I'm just going to play my second Brawler. Here, obviously, I could have played the Binding to kill the Ballista, but I'm going to just wait to use the Binding on maybe a bigger threat. I'll just see how it plays out, see what he plays. So he plays another Mimic. Then he plays an Arcbound Worker. So now I draw Tribal Flames so I can go Binding on his Worker. And then I'm going to swing in for a lot of damage. So he'll go to 8. And then he gets Arcbound Ravager down. Then he does the whole thing with Ozolith, moves all the counters. Then he makes his Walking Ballista 7/7, and then he kills me here. So again, I don't know what I could have necessarily done differently. I didn't have the right mana to be able to double cast Tribal Flames and Binding, so that kind of hurt me. But maybe I was supposed to target the Walking Ballista instead of the Arcbound Ravager, but kind of all his threats seem similar big, and I really wanted to get rid of the Mimic. Although maybe the Mimic later in the game when he already played a lot of threats, the second Mimic didn't matter as much. I could have just killed the Ballista. But, he could also just move the counters onto the Ravager, although he wouldn't have been able to do what he did with the Ballista. So maybe my punt was just that the Ballista is a big threat in this matchup, so I should prioritize killing that. I'm not really sure. I felt like I had a pretty good start this game with WD, the Hardened Scales, and I had the interaction and big threats on board, but he had the exact right stuff to kill me. So I'm not exactly sure what I would do differently. I think maybe it's just it just happened to have, he had 0 cards in hand. He literally had the exact cards he needed to do the exact right amount of damage to kill me this turn. So maybe I was supposed to, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, maybe I could have kept a blocker back in retrospect and only do 4, but I don't know if I would have played it any differently. Okay, so that was game 1. Sorry, that was match 1. And now we'll go into match 2. Okay, match 2. This hand I can't keep because it's only got 1 spell and no threats. So this is a mulligan. This is also kind of awkward. I really need red and green to be on different mana here. The basic planes just kills me in this hand, so I can't really keep this. Most of my cards won't be castable. It'll just be too awkward. Then I go to 5, and this is a better 5, so I think I'm just going to put back a Forest and maybe a Nicodle or maybe a Binding. Let's see what I do here. Okay, I do put back the Nicodle. So I could have obviously put it back to binding. Okay, now I know he's on hardened scales. So I just played the Triome here. I don't know that that was the right play. I probably should have just played Ragavan, but I guess I was thinking in my head, like, oh man, he could play a Walking Ballista next turn, kill my Ragavan, then I'm kind of in bad shape. But I really need to probably get some pressure on, so maybe just playing Ragavan turn 1 would have been a better play because, okay, I just dash Ragavan here um, with the idea that I can use extra manning for the binding. So he plays a Patchwork Automaton, he plays the Glimmer Wasp. So obviously, I draw another binding, which is good. Obviously, here I had the option of, like, in response to him casting these, I could have binded one of the hardened scales, and these would have come in smaller. Maybe that was the move, but my thought process was, well, he's already got the scales down, so I'm going to just try to deal with his threats with what I have in hand. And that's why he's going to try to swing with things, and then I can use 2 bindings here to bind the Glimmer Wasp. He's going to destroy that to put the stuff on the Automaton, which is fine because I'm going to use the second binding, and then I'm going to pay the ward tax to bind him, that Patchwork Automaton. So now he's got 2 cards in hand. He doesn't have 2 hardened scales in play, but now I can start kind of like, building my board out. So I just throw everything on the board, and I'm planning to start doing some damage here. So he does have another Hangerback Walker, which is kind of annoying, but I'm going to play my Scion, and then I'm just going to kill the Hangerback Walker. He does make the tokens, but maybe I shouldn't have killed it. I don't know. Made the difference. My thought was just I'm going to keep the number of threats he has down. He plays another Ravager, and then he swings away with everything, sacks it, and then puts everything on the Inkmoth Nexus. So then I die. So for this, I guess I should have maybe just targeted the scales. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't see that line coming, like he was going to sacrifice his entire board to make the, a 12/12 Inkmoth Nexus. So, and obviously I couldn't have blocked, even if I blocked with Sign, it wouldn't have made a difference because he would have put all the counters on the thing that wasn't blocked. So that was one where I was kind of at a loss for what else to do. I felt like maybe I just played too slow and I should have just played my threats earlier, or maybe I should have just binded the scales and not worried as much about his creatures. But I felt like I had a lot of answers and interaction here and had some pressure, and it still, it wasn't enough. Okay, game 2. Okay, so in game 2, I kept this hand, and honestly, I shouldn't have, in general, I don't keep a hand like this because it's just a little too awkward. The basic forest just kills me. So I did have Hushbringer, and honestly, I think I just took this hand because I had been testing Hushbringer in this league, but I had never actually got it in hand. So I brought it in. So sideboarding for this matchup, in this particular league, instead of Prismatic Ending, I had Hushbringer. So I did bring in Hushbringer with the thought that it'll stop the modular stuff and it'll stop some of his creatures that have ETBs. And then I bring in Hidetsugu, so I trim the Ragavans. For Hidetsugu, I usually also trim the Nicodles. I guess I kept them in here and took out Dramoka's Command instead. I think maybe I should have just kept the Dramoka's Command and take out the Nicodles. But anyway, so looking at this hand, my thought was, I've got Hushbringer, I've got Ragavan, I've got a bunch of answers. So this hand has potential. The land could be a little awkward, but I can just fetch a Triome turn 1, and then I'll have 4 types turn 2. It's not the end of the world. So I decided to keep this hand with the idea that I'm just going to Triome turn 1, and then turn 2 I can play Hushbringer or dash Ragavan. Depends what I want to do. He just plays Hardened Scales. I fetch a Triome and then Forest, and I just play Hushbringer here. I think I kind of overestimated the amount of creatures Hushbringer affected for his deck. Maybe I should have just played Ragavan. I'm not sure, but I start dashing, start doing some damage. See, he's got a Dismember. He plays Urza Saga. He gets a Walking Ballista, so now he can basically kill my thing. So I'm going to bind one of his scales to at least make the Ballista smaller, but he's got the safekeeping. So now he can kill my Hushbringer. So I'm going to still try to kill his Ballista. In response, he'll kill my Hushbringer. Okay. I do dash Ragavan here. and get another land, and then binding one of the scales. You know, maybe I wasn't supposed to dash Ragavan, and I could have just binded both the scales, but the problem with that is, again, I've got no pressure on the board, and his life total is still at 17, so I don't know that it really gets me anywhere. My idea was I'll just keep the binding in case he gets an Urza Saga token or plays another threat. Oh, sorry, never mind. I guess I just did that, yeah. So I do just bind both the scales. So now he gets the Ozolith down. He's got another creature. He's got another Walking Ballista. Um, and unfortunately, I just draw another Ragavan, which is pretty useless draw here. So I'm just going to dash it, try to trade with one of his creatures. Of course, he's just going to shrink his Ballista. And then I'm going to play my second Ragavan. Maybe I should just grab Giganta there. You know, obviously playing the second Ragavan didn't really accomplish much. My point was at least he could try to chump or like force him to shrink his Ballista. So he plays a third Hardened Scales. And then he just swings for a bunch of damage. I draw a Brawler. But unfortunately, like, his Ballista is so big, so now he can just keep killing my creatures. And he's got a huge board with the Construct. And then I just draw a land, so that's the game. So, you know, this game wasn't, like, I obviously had a lot of interaction, but the problem is I just didn't have enough pressure in the early game. Like, if you look at the threats I had Hushbringer and then 2 Ragavan. So no 2-drop threats until the very last turn. So that's kind of what killed me. So, you know, maybe I'm supposed to take a faster hand and not worry about having as much early interaction, but I just feel like this matchup, you know, I can get blown out so quickly that I need something to slow him down. But, you know, maybe like all these games have gone long, you know, turn 7, turn 6, so my deck can kill by turn 4, so maybe I should just play more aggressively. I'm not really sure. You know, put in the comments what you think if you got experience with this matchup, and what you saw me playing well versus, you know, what you saw me playing wrong. Because again, I'm trying to improve against this matchup and learn. But those are 2 matches where I struggled quite a bit against Hardened Scales with my build. So go ahead and comment in the video, like, subscribe, all that stuff if you enjoy this kind of content, and I appreciate any feedback you guys give me. Thanks for watching.